All right. Hello, everyone. I am here and we are live. I apologize for the late start, but my guest is backstage and it's good to talk to the guest before you bring them up so that they know what to expect and so that you all are on the same page. I didn't get a stream in over the weekend. There's a lot going on. In the summertime, you should be relaxing, but there's a lot going on. So I was unable to do a stream on Saturday, even though I thought about doing one. So tonight we're going to talk about we're going to go back to electric cars, and we're going to talk to someone. Well, I'm going to talk to someone who's actually in the industry and on. Sheryl will describe it to us, but she's on the charging side. So some of you may see Teslas, riding around with that unique hum that they give. But part of this discussion is the vehicles themselves, and the other part is the actual infrastructure so that you can charge the vehicles and keep the vehicles on the road. So Cheryl's going to talk to us about her business, her corporation, Daitech Corporation. So I'm going to play my intro, and I am going to share this over on my original channel. And then on the when that's done, I'm going to talk about how me and Sheryl met, and then I'll bring her up for a Q&A. So I will see you all on the other side of the intro. All right, hello everyone, and happy Tuesday. Welcome back to Big Discussions 76 Science and Technology. Well, tonight's going to be fun because I have a guest, which means I'm not going to, well, I'll have someone to talk with. I have a guest. So tonight I'm going to have I'm going to be talking with Sheryl Ponds from a company called Daitech Corporation, or the Daitech Corporation. She'll tell us when she comes. But this is going to fall under technology, and this is going to involve electric cars and the infrastructure for electric cars. I've had some discussions here on those technologies and the different aspects of them. I'm still learning. We're all learning here together on this channel when it comes to certain disciplines and technologies. But we're going to hear about her company today. So I want to give a brief history discussing how I met Sheryl, and there's a bit of a trail on this channel already, and so I'm gonna start us with that. So many of you know that I interviewed a gentleman named Antoine Thompson earlier this year. Maybe was it sometime last year? I'm losing track of time these days. But Antoine um, is involved or runs the Greater Washington Region Clean Cities Coalition. So that is a group that is concerned um, with alternative energies as they relate to transportation. So electric cars, electric vehicles is one part of that, but also hydrogen, uh, biodiesel, all of those aspects. So they're asking questions about how can we phase out vehicles that use petroleum products for other sources of energy so that we can um, take better care of the environment. And I interviewed Antoine here on the channel. I also interviewed a gentleman named Floyd Vergara, and he talked to us about biodiesel fuels and how biodiesel fuels can create safer breathing air for communities that are currently facing health challenges due to um, exhausts from diesel engines. Okay, both of those interviews are in my library. Let's see. I just published this piece back in February. This link is below in the description box. This is another one of the Greater Washington Region Clean City Coalitions. This is another one of their events. There's Antoine Thompson right there. Again, if you watched my channel, you've seen that interview. You know who Antoine is, and I wrote this little blurb, this the article. I won't say a blurb. I wrote this article, this blog post on my blog about that event, and this was Antoine. He said this. He said there are people in this room who are promoting propane, electrification, biofuels, renewable natural gas, and green hydrogen. I love them all. So this is there's a larger movement going on now in terms of lessening the amount of petroleum products used and looking to use alternative fuel sources for vehicles and transportation. So at their annual meeting last year, I think it was last year, I'm losing track of time here. One of the speakers was Sheryl Ponds, who was the founder of Daitech Corporation. And I heard what she had to say when she was on the on one of the panels, and I thought that it would be fun to interview her here. So, as is often the case, when you're looking to interview someone, your schedules have to sync up. And she's a very, very busy woman. She runs a company and she has other responsibilities. So we were finally able to get together today to talk about this topic. And she's going to come and talk to us about her experiences in this arena and also uh, about her company. So with that, I'm going to bring up Sheryl Ponds, and we're going to talk about her company, Daitech Corporation. Sheryl, welcome.
Well, how are you doing, Dr. Dunbar? What's
Good, how
going
are you?
on?
Nothing much, yourself?
It's good to be here. Thank you so much for having me on your podcast. Is it a podcast live stream? What are we doing?
This is,
I
you
can't
know, we,
remember the whole.
yeah. So it's actually very nuanced. So a podcast,
Mhm.
I think, from a technical sense, it's pre-recorded.
Okay.
This is a live stream
Okay.
broadcast, quote unquote. So it's a little different. I mean,
Okay.
but so yeah, I appreciate you being here.
I'm gonna try to filter myself then, since I know you're not editing.
Oh, okay. Yes, this is all live.
It's all live. Okay. It's all quotable. Okay,
Yes.
cool.
Yes. Okay. So Sheryl, I sent you some questions,
Okay.
and so I typically, when I have speakers come on, I typically like to start at the beginning, because one of the things I want to do with this channel is pass on how people got to where they are, and how, in this
Okay.
instance, you started your corporation, so that
Mhm.
others, particularly from our background, can potentially do the same thing.
Okay. Cool.
Because many of us don't have individuals like you in our families.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
So before I answer any questions,
Yes.
I just want to know, can I ask you some questions at the end of my interview? Like, would you allow me? Because I'm very interested in your background also.
Okay. Sure. I'll answer to the best of my ability. I didn't think I'd be on the stand myself today, but
Yeah,
okay.
us STEM nerds need to hang out and get to know each other better. How
Mhm.
about that? Right? Okay, cool. Cool.
All right.
All right, so fire away.
All right. So Sheryl, talk about your background. Where are you from?
I'm originally from Washington, D.C. I was born and raised in the District of Columbia. I am a native
Okay.
Washingtonian.
Okay. So you've seen the city
I've
transform,
seen
and
it. I've seen it go from chocolate city to mocha latte, and it's on its way to being cafe au
wow. Okay. And you've seen your share of mayors and
lait.
presidents.
Yes, I haven't resided in Washington uh, all of my life, but I'm now about to live in DC as long as I lived in New York City. And prior to moving back home, I spent most of my adult years in New York City. I lived there for about 15 years.
Okay.
Mhm.
All right. Everyone in the chat, if you feel so inclined, I don't have a super chat or AdSense
Mhm.
here. So if you want to make a donation to the channel, my Cash App and PayPal are there. All right. So you're from this area. Did you now? I'm assuming, since you started this technology company, this alternative fuel electrification company,
Mhm.
I'm assuming you have a science background, but that might not be the case. What's your background in?
Well, my undergraduate degree is in mechanical engineering.
Well, there you go. Yep. See.
I have a STEM background. Yes, indeed. Yes.
Okay. Oh, which university did you?
Well, I was looking at your Michigan flag and I was like, you know what? It's cute, but it's not UT. I went to the University of Tennessee
Okay.
in Knoxville. I'm a
Okay.
volunteer. My blood runs orange when it
Okay.
doesn't run purple. And I went to graduate school at Northwestern University.
Okay. Very nice. Very nice. Did you have an early aptitude for science? Were you getting all A's in your math classes and your physics right away, or?
It's funny you should ask that because in my mind, I was a better student than I actually was. I looked at one of my old elementary school report cards, and my strength was definitely mathematics and my science classes. Didn't do so well in some of the other courses, but a lot of it was I was too social, in elementary school. So I was missing some lessons. I wasn't paying attention. Yeah. Yeah. But in high school, I did really well academically. I attended a few summer enrichment programs. One of them was Carnegie Mellon. And I spent a few summers working for an accounting firm. So I figured out right away I didn't want to be an accountant. So I was really glad that that was scratched off the list. And pursued a career in engineering, had a number of different assignments while I was in college. I've always been a part of sustainability. When I was in the 8th grade, I placed second in a citywide science fair and I built a solar array out of black trash can bags, some cement glue, and a fan from an engine, a dry cell battery, and a lamp. And I won second place. I lost to a robot who didn't write up the report, but I started a business just because of that.
All right. And you made those items out of trash bags?
Yes, sure did.
Wow.
Yeah. Because the black it has, I forgot what it is, but it's absorption of black absorbs light, and the lamp was a proxy for the sun. Okay, so we just moved. It was it was really a heat transfer. It wasn't a solar array. It was like a solar thermal heat transfer system. But solar power, solar energy.
Okay, Sheryl, you have a new fan here. This is Rael says this sister is dope. Salute to her.
Oh my God.
Okay.
Hey,
so yeah, it would really help if you could share this out, because how many individuals like this do we know? How many individuals like this do we have in our families? And so this will help someone else to hear this story. So a summer enrichment program, that's just briefly, that's when you go off to a school like Carnegie Mellon and you work.
Carnegie Mellon, and for the first time, I'd been surrounded by other African American students who were serious about mathematics and science. And it was really interesting because these were kids who were from Baltimore Polytech. I didn't even know schools like this existed, right? Baltimore Polytech, Central High from Philadelphia, Boys High from Philly. I think it's Western was the women's high school. And I think that was the name of it in Baltimore. In Baltimore Polytech at one time was an all-boys school. And we didn't have anything like that in Washington. Though I attended a good school, it was, academically, it was solid, but it wasn't really preparing us at the time to really just go into technical studies. And when I went to Carnegie Mellon, that thing turned me on. Okay. I'd also study architecture when I was in high school. I went to an architecture program, and that was fun. I enjoyed it. But Carnegie Mellon opened my eyes to what I could do from just a real kind of like a pure place and make a difference. And I really wasn't all that patient for architecture. And not that you can't be patient for engineering. What I found out later, and this is what happens when you don't have a lot of exposure. I went into engineering because I was good in math and science, right? I was so good in math. I went to college with a math deficiency, still majored in engineering, and graduated. But what I really wanted to do was product design. So I was kind of in the right space with engineering and architecture. I just didn't go to the right, maybe I didn't go to the right school. I didn't know anything about it. I didn't know how to get there. But I did want to design cars, a little, there's some other things sexier than cars. And, but I never got there, and that's fine. But that's, my heart of hearts, that was, and like when I go to IKEA, I was like, oh yeah, I could have easily designed this, so, but I completed and graduated, and I had a number of careers since, and eventually I landed in Transportation electrification.
Okay, before we make the hop from school to the private sector,
Mhm.
did you say a math deficiency?
Yeah. Okay. So this is what happened. So I went to Carnegie Mellon, and that the math that they were teaching us calculus in the summer. They were kicking my butt. Like the first 3 weeks, I didn't know what the heck was going on. And I had it backwards. So let me just say I kind of had it backwards. So when I got back to school, I remember I was already in Algebra 2 in the 10th grade. I'd taken geometry in the 8th grade. When I got back to school, instead of me getting an easy A in math, I stopped taking mathematics in the 10th grade.
Hmm.
Okay. And then when I went to college, I had to learn trigonometry. So I was in high school math in college. I had to take my first semester. I was in high school math. But that doesn't stop you from having the requirements to take your basic engineering classes, which fortunately a lot of it focuses on geometry, but you really need your trigonometry. So I was learning trig and statics at the same time. That's a little crazy. But
Okay. Now, is Carnegie Mellon, is that a STEM school?
Well,
Or is
Carnegie Mellon, Carnegie Mellon up in Pittsburgh.
Mhm.
Carnegie, yes, they have one of the most outstanding engineering programs in the country, and but it's known for STEM, but it is a very well-rounded university. So there were all kind of students there. They had dancers, they had actors, and they had the STEM kids there for the summertime. That's part of
Okay.
STEM. Mhm.
I think exposure is important, and part of my story is interestingly, I did go to a technical high school in Buffalo because I'm from
Mhm.
Buffalo,
Okay.
but I didn't gain an appreciation for Carnegie Mellon and MIT
Mhm.
until I got to grad school, and I realized my graduate advisor attended MIT.
Okay.
And just depending upon the neighborhood and the family you grew up in and what's around you, some of
Right.
these things just don't.
They just don't,
Yeah.
it doesn't even hit your map, right? And what happened, I don't know why I always spent a lot of time with my high school counselor. I don't know why, but she was always giving me things to try, try this, try that, you see the signs on the bulletin board in front of your high school counselor's office, and I was actually reading them, and and I love the free programs. Okay. And the thing I liked about Carnegie Mellon is I'd never been to Pittsburgh, and at that time the steel mills were still in heavy production. The industry was it was declining, and it was an opportunity to get away from home for the whole summer, and I had a blast. And I've had lifelong friends since then.
Mhm.
That experience.
Okay. Now, just quickly, were they into education, or were they white collar professionals, or were they?
Well, my dad was self-employed, and my mom is both of them are alive. Excuse me. And my mother is retired as a high school teacher. She taught business education. So the courses that she taught at high school were related to helping children prepare themselves for the workforce, like typing, word processing at the time, office etiquette, business writing, those type of classes. So and when I went to graduate school, she was my accounting tutor.
Okay, so it sounds like you had those building blocks right there in home.
Yeah,
Ab-
well, it was at home, but also in my family, we've had business owners and entrepreneurs. On my dad's side, my family lost their wealth during the Depression. Black families lost a lot of their money because the banks gave their money to other people. and my family suffered from it. So one of the reasons why I'm really determined to, and my great grandmother was very successful, from what I was told. One of the things I'm really, but no one went back into business for themselves after that, not successfully anyway. One of the things I'm really determined is to get our family back on that footing to be entrepreneurs again.
Wow.
So I'm out here. I'm not just doing it for me. I'm doing it for the generations ahead, the ascendants. Yeah. For the
That's
descendants. Yeah.
that's well, that's remarkable because in a lot of instances, y- well, and this is not saying that it's wrong, but many instances, young people are just pushed to go work for someone else as
Oh,
opposed
definitely. I was too.
yeah.
Everyone is. It's a mindset. But being out in the workforce, you get laid off, downsized a few times, laid off, outright fired. You realize the security that you seek with a job, the emotional toll that working for other people will take on you in comparison to the freedoms. I'm not gonna say you're totally free because you are accountable to other folks, but just the opportunity to be freely expressed, like just even the way I engaged you at the beginning of the interview. All right, in
Mhm.
certain work environments, is considered unprofessional. Well, that's not me. I want folks to feel at ease and start a situation off with a smile on their face, right?
Mhm.
And if you can't do that, and you're criticized for it, then you worry about your positioning and all that. You're not freeing your job either. You're not securing your job either. So I just got kind of tired of that kind of stuff. And that was one of the reasons why. That's another reason why I started my business. You look around, I had this great education, went to the University of Tennessee, majored in engineering, worked in manufacturing, worked in commercial corporate banking for Citigroup, worked in economic development, managed executive director of an economic development corporation, a faith-based economic development corporation, had a great career in commercial real estate, and I was just in middle manager hell. So what I figured out was that the only way I was going to become a CEO was to make myself a CEO. That's it. So I did it.
Okay. Now, I want to ask you about middle manager hell, but I want to respect your time. We can talk about that later.
Okay, that's another interview.
That's not that. That sounds like that's going to be a whole
Yeah,
discussion in itself. Okay. So
yeah.
your educational stops were University of Tennessee, and then the next stop was. Did you go back to Carnegie?
A few years later, I went to um, I worked in manufacturing. Now, when I did a co-op experience while I was in college. So I worked in the chemical industry, hated it. I worked in a chemical plant, hated it. I worked in military avionics, enjoyed the people, hated the job, or hated the business we were in. But I just love the folks that I work with there. Um, so I didn't do that. I went into manufacturing, and that's where I found my sweet spot in uh, in my engineering career, and loved it because it was it's a business that you can actually see the outcome. Okay, it's very hands on. I worked as a production manager by the time I left, I was production manager, but I first went in as a project engineer, and you know, built or innovated production lines for consumer products. And that skill set that I learned there, and that experience basically was the foundation for how I built my company, Daitech Corporation.
Okay. Well, I guess yeah, that's a good natural transition. So between your education to starting
Mhm.
Ditech, you you spent a lot of time in manufacturing.
I spent 4 years. I spent 4 years in manufacturing. Got tired of being dirty because we were. I loved it, but it was like I didn't like the environment. So I had been going to graduate school at night and decided that that was my first big shift, and resigned and went to school full time. And after I graduated, I moved to New York to go into corporate banking, and found out I wasn't really that crazy about it. And eventually ended up in, I had a film company for a little while. I was floating around.
Mhm.
And then after 9/11, I worked in economic development, helping businesses get their sea legs back after the tragedy, and enjoyed that work. Um, and that was a segue to economic development. Economic development fed my interest into commercial real estate, got a whole nother set of credentials in commercial real estate. And that's how I ended up in commercial real estate here in the District of Columbia.
Okay, so you were in commercial real estate before you started Daitech.
Yes. Yep.
Because I did do a little bit of research. I read the history on your site, and you said at some point you decided to shove your chips in.
Push, I
So,
pushed it
but,
all in.
but yeah, so tell us about how you started Daitech, why you started it, and then we can go wherever you want to in terms of
Okay.
discussing the company.
So in graduate school, you learn this thing. So I'm a quick study, but sometimes it takes me a long time to catch on. So in graduate school, in business school, they always everyone wants to do an arbitrage. That's basically how do you make money, or how do you make money or save money without spending it, right? And I had a thought, thinking about what I knew about solar energy and Elon Musk having this win with the Tesla, like, yo, we could arbitrage fuel. If we can get this solar energy working with these electric cars, and I don't have to be at Costco anymore, right? So that was it. That was the seed that had me thinking about the electrification pretty early. Then one day I ran into a gentleman who had a Tesla. I was on U Street near my office, and I flagged him down. It's the first Tesla I seen in person. I flagged him down. It was beautiful. It was a navy blue with a British tan interior. I flagged him down and said, what do you think about this car? He said, I loved it, right? And he was gushing, he was going on. He could have been a brand ambassador. Tesla could have hired him for a commercial, and they wouldn't have had to pay him. That's how much he loved this car. So then I asked him this question. I said, but do you charge at home? He's like, oh no. I said, so where are you charging your car? He said, well, he publicly charge, he plans it out. I said, that doesn't bother you or upset you or anything like that? He said, no. I was like, whoa. He had no range anxiety, right? And as badly as I wanted an electric vehicle at the time, I knew I wasn't going to get one until EV charging became more ubiquitous. But the one thing I knew when I met that guy is that Elon Musk had a home run, and that most people would not feel the same way about charging their vehicles that he felt. Like, he was gonna just suffer through the whole thing. He didn't care. He had an electric vehicle. I knew most people like me. So that's what that dialogue inspired me to start doing research. So after work, I would go to the library, put toothpicks in my eyes, and study the the EV business, which had been going on in California a few years prior. And from that information, I was able to extrapolate a business plan to develop a business. Well, choose a lane and establish a business plan that may work for this region. And a few other things happened. The state of Maryland signed a MOU with about 8 other states that they were going to reduce their carbon emissions from transportation by 25%, 23% by 2025. And they were doing it to save, basically to protect the Chesapeake Bay, which meant that they were serious about this MOU. It wasn't just something, pie in the sky. For those of you who don't know, the Chesapeake Bay is part of the state of Maryland's, 20% of the state of Maryland's gross product comes from the Chesapeake Bay. So basically, to talk about saving an industry, an economic engine. And I joined a few organizations. And eventually, once I left the district, I made the hard choice to focus in on EV adoption. And that's how I started the company.
Okay. So what, at this point, I have your website queued up. What do you want to tell us about Daitech?
Okay, so Daitech Corporation is the art and soul of electric vehicle charging. It's one thing you should know. And we call ourselves the art because my team, myself and my team, we are serial problem solvers. Many of us have engineering, well, most of us have some sort of technical background, either professional or through the trades. So our organization is primarily, I'm the CEO, and Daitech Corp has a team of electrical tradesmen and women, also known as electricians, master electricians, and other licensed electricians. We also have on our team electrical engineers, PEs, professional engineers, and we also work or partner with a civil engineering company who makes sure that the work that we do when we have to move the dirt or the earth, we're not creating any type of situation that will destabilize the soil. So that's who we are. And our folks have worked in it. You've heard my resume, okay, or parts of it, and a number of industries I've worked in. Well, my tradesmen have been able to take their skill sets, and my engineers, they've been able to take their skill sets and run with it in other industries just as diverse as mine. Like, the Office of the Architect of the Capitol, work for FEMA and disaster recovery, broadcasting transmission, worked for Metro, our transit authority, in some of their large scale projects, and doing things as basic as core and shell for commercial construction, as well as home renovation. So they've got the whole gamut, right? And then we're the soul of EV charging because we have the basics. We have the technical acumen and the industry know-how to confidently and competently install EV charging stations in a number of situations. We focus on places where people live. That's in single family homes as well as multifamily dwellings. And those multifamily dwellings can be townhouses, condos, apartments, and of course, like I said, single family homes. So that's where our primary focus is in the business. But when we first started out, trying to get some business, we were all over the map. We were doing parking lots, just looking for the opportunity to install EV charging stations. That was the goal. Parking lots, parking garages. We were installing them at office buildings, anywhere anyone would have us. And now we've gotten enough traction and built a strong enough reputation in the marketplace that we feel comfortable choosing our lane, and that's the direction we're moving in.
Okay, so I'm gonna take us back to range anxiety.
Okay.
And because it sounds like the next wave of this is making the chargers accessible. But first, can you tell us what range anxiety is?
Okay, range anxiety, I describe it as the set of emotions that people have related to, and range anxiety can happen whether you have an electric vehicle or a gas-fired vehicle. It occurs. I mean, I just want the audience to feel this. Think about when you run out of when your car is running on fumes, right? And there's no gasoline station anywhere in sight. There's a set of emotions that come with that, right? It's feelings of inadequacy, embarrassment. Okay, you might even feel like you're not so bright because you let it happen. All right, those emotions that conjure up that that tightness in your chest, that's range anxiety. And people have it even before they get an electric vehicle because just the thought of being stuck on the road creates that tension in them. And it prevents them from making the decision to buy an electric vehicle. Okay, that's what's happening today. Now, over a little bit over 100 years ago, people were experiencing range anxiety when Henry Ford was selling automobiles and there weren't gasoline stations all over the place like they are now. So this is not the first wave of range anxiety. It may even be the third wave because think about when folks were traveling west in their horses. Could they make it? Okay. So we've had a few waves of range anxiety related to transportation, but at the end of the day is what's am I going to get stuck? And if I'm going to get stuck, am I going to be in a safe place? And is anyone going to be able to help me move to my destination? That's what it is.
Okay. So everyone, the link for Daitech Corporation is in the description box below, but I also just put it here in the chat. And Sheryl, you shared another link with me. Do you want me to share that right now or?
Go ahead. Go ahead. Yes, please.
All right. All right. And that link takes us to, because there are other links there, right?
Right, exactly. So that's my Linktree link, and that'll take you to all of Daitech Corp's social media uh, platforms.
Okay, I'm pulling this up right
I
now.
I think it's IG, Facebook, LinkedIn. They're all there. Makes it easy.
Okay, and this will go, I'll put this under the playback
Okay.
for the
Thank you.
people who are watching, uh, who will watch the playback. Okay, so if you want to follow Daitech Corporation, everyone, this link is in the chat right now, but it'll be in the description box below as well. All right, so you all are, so the interesting thing I heard you say is you're using, your workforce consists of a lot of tradesmen.
Yes, my
So these,
team.
so
Mhm.
these are all blue collar tradesmen. Yes.
Well, I mean, if that's what you want to call it, yeah.
Well, yeah. So,
I mean, to me, they're experts. They have a love. They have expertise that even electrical engineers don't have. Okay, and
so
so go ahead.
yeah. So I guess I'm the connection I'm trying to make here is where people are getting into
Okay, at
this
the
wave.
entry point. Okay,
Yeah.
so my tradesmen just so happens that they have they either have had well they are for the most part they are business owners themselves, right? And they're side hustling. Okay. They work for electrical companies and they are side hustling and they have basically agreed to support Daitech Corp because it's their entry point for the transportation electrification. They see where it's going, but they're not in a position to cannibalize the business that they already have. Because let's face it, there's a whole lot of electrical business out there besides EV charging stations, right? I'm blessed because they've chosen Daitech Corp to to hang their hat with. And they could have anybody, my folks are, I'm gonna tell you, my guys, they're so good. Oh my gosh. I'm blessed that I work with individuals, mostly men, who are very, very conscientious. They are very professional. They're very patient with customers, and they know what they are doing. Okay. And they have a level of experience. I mean, it's the electrical work is in with these guys. And I just thank God that I was blessed to bring those sorts of folk to work alongside with me.
Okay. And I think this is important because there are applications for those skill sets
Mhm.
besides the traditional ones.
Yep.
This is something that's kind of in its, well, I don't want to misquote and say it's in its infant stage.
Mhm. Oh, it's
But,
still. I think
but
we're still. I don't even think it's pushed out yet.
okay.
I think it's. Okay, so it's birth. The baby's not out of the nursery at the
Out
hospital
of
yet.
the nursery yet. Right.
Yes, that's
So
how early we are in this industry.
yeah, so one of my messages, I just published a post on my blog 'cause I do a lot of writing,
Mhm,
and it was entitled "Is College?" That basically, does everyone have to go to college? Is that the only route for success?
mhm,
And a segment of the population believes that it is. Go get a college degree,
mhm,
and if you get it in the right thing, it may make sense.
mhm,
But there are other avenues as well. Some people are more gifted
mhm,
with their hands and
mhm,
building and constructing things.
mhm, mhm,
And I think that that message needs to be disseminated
mhm.
more than it is today.
I agree.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I will say, and I tell this to my son, even if you don't want a 4-year degree, um, he's going to traditional college. But even if an individual has a 1 to 4 year degree, I suggest that folks, if they're going into a trade, they do it by way of community college, okay, and then or go to a 4-year school and then go to the trade school. And the reason why is because the communicators always win. Okay. And the one thing you don't get in trade school is the rigor of communication and those writing skills. You don't get it, they don't offer it like they do in 4-year school. And also the intellectual engagement. Okay. We're entering, we're now we're moving to AI. We're getting ready to compete with the machine for real. Okay. And if you don't have that intellectual that thing where you can just like express yourself, be able to fully communicate and use that as a launch pad for your creativity, AI is going to do some damage to you.
Mm.
Okay. And that's the real of it. And so I don't discourage trade school. I think if I was younger, I would be going to electrical training right now. Okay. um and I think of the years when when I was in manufacturing. I lived south of Chicago, not too far from the cornfields. I was only like 30 to 40 miles south of Chicago, but the next road over, it was cornfields, right? So there was not a whole lot to do other than, go to the mall or keep driving back and forth to Chicago. I wish I spent some of those weekends studying electricity, aside from what I learned uh, in my engineering training, and just really learning how to know how, if I had an electrician's license, okay, oh, all these years, I mean, the money I could have made.
Really?
Yes. The money I could have made pulling wire as a side hustle instead of doing the things we traditionally do, braid, twist hair, do gifts, yeah, I could have done that. No problem. No problem.
So, Sheryl, what you're saying is that's been a well-paying field even
Oh,
before
I'm gonna
this whole
tell you.
car revolution.
I'm gonna tell you something. Electricians make more money than a whole lot of people, including lawyers and some doctors. So don't get it twisted. It's a lot of opportunity there, but you gotta love it, okay? And one of the reasons why I will not discourage trade school. I don't discourage people should find we in America, we can still find our path. Okay, go for it. There's no reason why in America you cannot pursue the career of your dreams, because we're still a wealthy nation, and there's a gobs of opportunity. And even though we deal with what we deal with as African Americans, right now you can pretty much go for what you want. So do it.
Okay.
Go for it.
Well, Sheryl, we are at 51 minutes. I want to respect your time. I'm enjoying this.
I want to ask you some questions.
Okay, I've got 3 more here,
okay.
and then
okay.
I'll go on the witness stand myself.
Okay, cool.
So right now it seems as though where things are is putting the charging stations, making the charging stations more accessible.
Yes.
So putting them in people's homes, setting them up at malls. Mm-hmm. Is that where things are now, and where are things going to progress from here?
Well,
where do you see?
The reason why I pursued EV, my space is EV charger infrastructure, right? And that's the installation work. The utilities call it make ready. So that is basically, the backbone of the EV charging station, connecting the charging stations from the power source, okay, to the EV charging station, and overcoming the obstacles in order to get there. So sometimes you have to go underground. Sometimes you have to go up and overhead. Sometimes you have to pull the power from the grid, because the building doesn't have enough power coming in in order to support the EV charging stations. So the infrastructure is very important, and without that knowledge, as far as I'm concerned, you're not an EV charger installer, okay? And the thing that about my guys, they can go all the way to the grid and bring it all the way to the charging station, no matter what the environment is, okay? So if we got to bust through some rocks, we can do it. If we have to go underground, it's no deal, okay? If we have to hang it like 24 feet in the air, and have racks and things of that nature, they can do that. My guys can build electrical rooms as well as electrical pads. They are full-fledged commercial electricians. And I know, because of my background in manufacturing, I know how to cobble the pieces together. I know how to get from point A to point B. And that's the one thing that manufacturing taught me, was you have a problem, you got a set of raw materials, you got some energy, you got some water, you need some heat, you got mixing bowls, all that sort of thing. At the end, when all this stuff comes together, you're going to have a product. And that's basically what I'm delivering. I'm delivering a product, and the product is EV charging stations that operate.
Okay. I'm going to slip something in from the chat that I think is relevant.
Okay.
This person asks, Tech RX, and if you have an answer for this, if you don't have an answer for this, that's fine as well. Can you ask if there is an intersection between charging stations and new technology in cybersecurity and AI?
Yes, and that pretty much right now, it doesn't happen with Daitech Corporation, because we work with manufacturers only. We only work with manufacturers of smart charging stations. okay? Or charging, or the simple charging stations that we install are those that are the brands directly related to the car. Like the Tesla charging station. Well, the Tesla charging station is smart. It communicates back and forth with the car. The Chevy Bolt charging station is smart. It communicates directly with the car. That information doesn't necessarily go up into the network via it's not cellular. They may not be cellular enabled. Okay. But the reason why the cyber technology is important, or cybersecurity is important, is because the EV charging stations are fundamentally, they regulate the power coming from the electrical service to the actual car. And there's communication going back and forth between the charging station, the car, your handheld device, and if it's linked up with a network, up to the network. Okay. And the network may be coming through, the network connection may be coming through your EV charging station, or it could be coming through your car. And at all those points, they are disseminating information about how long you've been charging your car, how much power you put into your car, how much it could be costing you, how much it may cost, how much the utility may charge you, how many miles you've driven since the last time you charged, where did you go the last time you were in your car? It's like all this information. Do you want folks, does anybody have that information about you? So that's why cybersecurity is really important. Okay.
Okay.
Because it is web enabled, it is cellular enabled, and cloud based for the most part. The communication structure. Mm-hmm.
All right. So I have two more questions. So what advice would you give younger people looking to break into this industry? What advice would you give? Let's go learn manufacturing, study engineering, electrical
I'm gonna tell
technology.
you, it's so wide open right now. My suggestion is that you figure out what what you're doing, find out what you like, what you're interested in, because there's a whole lot of room in this industry that's not obvious. And you don't have to be, and it doesn't have to be directly related to the purchase of a car or EV infrastructure. What I'd like for folks to do is picture the US before Henry Ford invented the car, right? Get that in your mind. Now, picture the US 5 years after the first Model T rolled off the manufacturing line, the assembly line. We started getting gasoline stations. We started getting diners. Advertising started taking off. People were vacationing. All these things that the country changed. And by the time, World War II, post World War II, we were full tilt. They were building highways and everything changed because of that one thing that happened in Detroit in, was it 1918, something like that, right? Well, I would say definitely African Americans didn't have a huge opportunity to participate as business owners and professionals in the first golden age of the automobile. But now you do. And my thing, and I tell people over and over again, you got to get in where you fit in. There's opportunities in health research related to EV adoption, environmental justice. If you want to become an attorney and you have a thing for clean air, this is your moment, right? If you want to create a business that will hire people in your neighborhood, this is it. Okay, you don't have to do what I do, but this is it. This is like the gold rush for folks who are so inclined, but this time you don't have to go to one section of the country. You can do it right where you are right now. because it's coming. And that's what I tell folks. Go for it.
Okay. All right. Well, before your questions for me, do you have any other comments or anything else you want to say?
Well, I appreciate someone said it sounds like lots of data that can be used for predictive. Exactly. Yeah. If you're a data analyst, if you want to be in the data analytics, we want you. Okay. We want you in this business. I want to say thank you. And I appreciate your audience. I like hanging out with you guys with these nerdy questions. I don't get this too often.
Really?
No. You know, I'm gonna tell you, STEM folks, they just take it to the next level, okay, with their intellect. So I like the rigor and I appreciate it. So Amar, I see you have the periodic tables on your chest.
Mm-hmm.
So what's that all about? Why are you walking around with a chemistry chart on your chest?
Well,
out.
Sheryl, so this channel is a STEM channel. So when I was conceiving of it and figuring out how to grow it, I figured I should have some t-shirts to go with it. So
Okay.
the periodic table is critical to most of the scientific fields. So they actually sell these on Amazon.
Okay. All right. Now,
I
are
have
you a
a
chemist?
couple. Sorry?
Are you a chemist?
My actual background, my bachelor's is in general biology,
Oh, okay.
and my PhD is in pharmacology. So I have a pharmacology toxicology background.
Oh, okay.
So, but I'm also in this season,
Mm-hmm.
I've become interested in science communication,
Okay.
writing and video. So I do a lot of blogging,
Mm-hmm.
and I do some video now too.
Okay, cool. Pharmacology. So you in the back there mixing potions. You have anything for you got anything for crow's feet?
Sorry? Oh no. I don't know anything about that. I know a lot about chemicals, but I don't know anything about crow's feet.
Okay. All right, cool.
So Tech RX. I dropped the link. I'll drop it again. How can we reach out to Daitech, Sheryl, and thank her in advance? So I'll drop the link again. This is how you can get in contact.
All right, so I got another question. So, what message are you sharing with young people about STEM?
That's a good question. Before the pandemic, I was doing career days here, mostly in Prince George's County. I have not been contacted to do that since things opened back up. I'm still open to doing it. When I go into certain communities, and it's funny, even because I'm in the public sector, I don't want to say exactly where I am, but I'm in the public sector. This is the hub for the federal government. A lot of people tell me I'm the first scientist they've ever met. And these are professionals. These are lawyers. These are program analysts. These are government workers from our community, and they say you're the first scientist I've ever met. So I want, in part through this channel, I want to promote visibility, and I think that because there are a lot of images of the wrong things,
I get you. Hey,
especially for boys.
Oh, definitely.
A lot of images for the wrong things, and in some instances, there's a challenge in embracing being smart and embracing being articulate and embracing being a STEM person.
Right.
So those are all things that I want to get out and say that those things are okay. It's okay to be different. It's okay to open up. It's okay to spend your time thinking about rockets and exoplanets or DNA and gene editing. That's okay.
Right.
Even if you're a little bit different, that's okay.
That's beautiful. I just saw a show on the Magnolia Network where they interviewed a gentleman who had gone to college to become a botanist, and he ended up with PTSD after Afghanistan, and now he has a farm in North Carolina. And he grows muscadine. And I was like, it was such a beautiful story because of his commitment, just like you, wanting young people to know that they can be scientists and they can build things from scratch. And he's from an urban, he didn't say what city he's from, but he said, I'm urban, I'm a city dude. And he built a 43-acre farm as a part of his healing, using his love for botany and plants to have a successful farm. So even farmers are scientists, you know? A lot of people don't see it that way, but I thought that was really, I don't know how it happened, but someone convinced our kids that it's not okay to use their brain, okay? And so, and the thing is, the problems that need to be solved in in our communities, no one's coming. It's on us, and we need STEM folk. We need people who know how to cobble solutions together to get us out of some of the situations that we're in now. We cannot depend on mainstream culture to make it happen. And so, cheers to the scientists. Cheers to the nerds. Let's make it happen.
Yes.
So that was it. That was all I had to say.
Okay. Well, what you just said was very, very important, because I think I've said this a lot since I've been on YouTube. I think messaging is intentional and imaging is intentional.
Mhm.
And the imaging is intentional for what younger people from Black communities are watching and what they're seeing. And it's not
happenstance.
It's not encouraging using brains and starting companies and studying engineering. It's the opposite.
Yeah. But we are among the best minds in the world. So our people, we're the same folks that built the pyramids. They still ain't figured that one out.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you may not have anyone in your family who has a technical background, but you connected with somebody who helped them build the pyramids over in Egypt, right? So somehow, if you need to go all the way back to create a connection, do it. It doesn't matter if you go back a few thousand years. It came from us. So let that be your inspiration.
Okay. Well, Sheryl, thank you. Thank you. If you don't have anything else to say, I'm going to wind the show down here. Okay. Well, we'll talk some more offline. I appreciate you coming.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate,
have a good night.
Your audience being here. Thank you.
Okay. Bye. All right, everyone. I'm going to go ahead and wrap this stream up. If you are watching on the playback, and if you're new, please consider subscribing, and also please hit that like button. As if you want to donate something to the channel, my Cash App and PayPal are below in the description box. And I just described to Sheryl that I am a blogger, and most of you know that I have a newsletter. Well, if you don't know, now you know. This link is below in the description box as well. There is a 2-paragraph greeting there, and you just scroll to the bottom, click that button, and I promise I will not give your information away to a third party. I would not do that. So with that, I'm going to wrap this up. Everyone, if you have any questions or comments, please let me know in the playback please let me know in the comments section below underneath the playback for this video. And with that, I'm going to wrap up. As always, remember everyone that your attitude determines your altitude. Always try to do your best. Take care, and I'll talk to you the next time. Bye-bye.